A few weeks ago I reviewed Borderlands and suggested that it was the worst movie of the year, so far. I said so far because I knew The Crow was incoming, and from the trailers I could tell it was going to be a stinker. It would probably rival Borderlands for awfulness.
I was right.
What I wasn't prepared for was just how bad it really is. This is by far the worst movie of the year. Borderlands was simply a bad video game adaptation, but this monstrosity missed the mark on every single front. Apart from being an objectively awful movie, it has a classic predecessor to compare against, and that makes it all the more dreadful. Make no mistake, this movie sucks.
Son of a...
It has no redeeming qualities. Zero. Nothing. None. Getting absolute shit like this produced should be stopped as soon as possible. But with Lionsgate being the production company and just this week announcing that they are going all in on AI, trying to remove storyboard artists from the production pipeline and hopefully effects artists too, it's no surprise that they were the company to pony up the cash for this abomination. A pair made in movie hell.
No, let me call it what it is. This is fucked up.
This review should serve as a warning not to watch this rubbish. It really is that bad. Things get exponentially worse when compared to the original movie from 1994. Now, the 1994 movie wasn't a fully accurate depiction of the James O'Barr comics. They had to cut some aspects and rejig a few other story elements to make things work with the untimely death of Brandon Lee, and one of those elements was the Skull Cowboy, played by the legendary Michael Berryman. Although it makes it less accurate, it helped streamline the story, and at just 100 minutes, it's a well-told gothic yarn that moves at a brisk pace. The new movie isn't a reboot of the original in any way. It doesn't even have a lot of similarities with the James O'Barr material. The main characters' names are the same. There are crows in the movie, and there's a character that could very vaguely be a homage to the Skull Cowboy character. That's pretty much it. The very basic premise of The Crow is that the person who was wronged gets brought back by the mythical crow to avenge themselves and those who were hurt in the process. They get supernatural abilities to accomplish this, and once they deviate from that specific plan, the powers go away and they go back whence they came from. In the new movie, there's this Kronos character that takes over the role of the crow, and bad guys are now making deals with the devil. Eric can now also make different deals with this Kronos character. What the fuck is happening? The crow no longer plays a pivotal role in the story. There's a bunch of crows flying around in purgatory, and then one follows Eric around in the world of the living. That's it. The original movie was set in a hyper-stylized gothic fantasy version of Detroit. It was a fantastical place. Real, but also not. It's almost always dark and rainy, and when it's daytime it's dreary weather. Dark, warm colors are the whole color palette here. Blue is only ever seen in flashbacks, in happy times. There was some actual thought put into it. The new movie looks to be set in some European city in parts, and then typical USA in the flashback and at the super modern rehab clinic. Eric and Shelly meet at said modern rehab clinic. There's bright daylight scenes and bright colors everywhere. No thought given to any of this. They probably reasoned, old European city equals gothic, right? If you're gonna go gothic, fucking go gothic. Don't just shoot in a European city and then slap a Detroit badge on the cops' uniforms. In the original movie, Eric and Shelly are brutalized by a gang of thugs before being viciously murdered by them. The thugs were all larger than life, truly evil characters, and Eric taking them out felt satisfying. In the new movie, some nameless, faceless thugs suffocate them both in seconds, nothing else. There's nothing making us truly despise them and rooting for Eric to get them. These random thugs just did random things and then we move on. In the original movie, Eric and Shelly were good people. Eric was part of a band and he and Shelly looked after Sarah. The movie also doesn't linger too much on their relationship. It shows us glimpses of the two of them, their life together and being happy. Enough for us to form a good idea of how happy they were together and how much they loved each other. In this new movie, Eric is a pussy being bullied in rehab and Shelly is some tweaked out prostitute who ends up in rehab when running from gangsters. They fall for each other there, and the movie decides to spend a solid 35 plus minutes of its runtime on their fling/relationship. By the time the killing starts, you're actually thankful that we're done with them as a couple. There also wasn't a lot in that 30 minutes that stood out as love. They basically go on an uninterrupted drug and alcohol-fueled sex binge. I guess this is what society deems love now? Jesus Christ. In the original, the Crow is the central mythical supernatural being that resurrects Eric in order to set the wrongs done to them right. The Crow is constantly there and leads Eric on his vengeance journey. His mission is simple: kill every person involved in him and Shelly's murders. The majority of the movie is the vengeful mission. In the new movie, the character Kronos, who was supposed to be a homage to the Skull Cowboy, now serves the purpose of the Crow, directing Eric in what to do. There are some crows flying around in that purgatory station, and then back in the living world there's a crow seen in a few shots, but doesn't interact with Eric or the story in any way. Here, Kronos makes a deal with Eric. See, the main baddie, Vincent Rogue, made a deal with the devil to be immortal, and Kronos doesn't like that. So the deal is that if Eric kills Vincent, the immortal guy, he and Shelly can go back. But he only has one chance, and if his love for Shelly falters, he will die and they both go to hell. Luckily for Eric, the guy Kronos wants him to kill also happens to be the boss of the goons that killed him and Shelly. Wow. How convenient. In the original, once Eric kills Top Dollar, he goes back to his grave. His mission was accomplished. It's not really a happy ending, as we know he goes back to the underworld and Shelly stays dead. In the new movie, Eric plays errand boy for Kronos and gets Vincent back to Purgatory, and the whole world resets with Shelly back where it all started with a happy ending. That completely misses the point of the Crow comics. They were created after James O'Barr's fiancée was killed, and this was his way of dealing with the pain. There was no happy ending for O'Barr, and there was none in the comics or the original movie. But with the current Hollywood writers being so clueless and out of touch with how things work in the real world, we should have expected nothing less.
Oh, participation award.
Speaking of Shelly, the woman playing Shelly in this new movie is some singer called FKA Twigs. And Jesus was she awful. I genuinely hope there's never another foray into acting for her. She was one of the worst things in something this horrendous.
There's one bad address.
And then of course, Eric versus Eric. In the original, Brandon Lee made the character his own. He was larger than life, looked the part, and could hold his own with the physical nature that the role required. He brought some much needed levity every now and then. You could tell that the pre-Death Machine Eric would have been a cool person to hang out with. But even with the moments of levity, he never let go of the excruciating pain he felt because of losing Shelly. That pain even played into him finally defeating Top Dollar. For the first 2/3 of the new movie, Bill Skarsgård played a puss boy being jerked around by everyone and everything. He's an outcast who relates to no one except Shelly. Even when sent back the first time, he's a wuss. And then when he finally decides to find his balls and kick some ass, he's just a generic angry guy killing people. He's a void, a nothing. There's no personality and nothing to latch onto for you to root for as an audience member. By the end, as he walked away, the best I could do was shrug my shoulders in absolute apathy for him, Shelly, or any of the other characters in this movie. Bill Skarsgård and Danny Huston are both very talented actors, but there was nothing really to work with here. You gotta subscribe to see more.
This isn't real.
Please subscribe now. It's hard to describe exactly just how bad this movie is, but I'm gonna give it a go anyway. What I'm about to describe is the plot of this thing. It's gonna sound retarded at points, ridiculous at others, and shitty throughout. So buckle up, hold your breath, we're going dumpster diving into a big stinking pile of crow poop.
Alright guys, it's gonna be a long night.
The first shot of the movie starts us off in bright daylight, in what is supposedly the outer edge of Detroit somewhere. You can already tell the tone of the movie is off and it's gonna be a shit show. Young Eric finds a horse that got tangled in barbed wire and tries to free it, but gets cut in the process. It's supposed to be deep, but feels cheesy, and apart from him looking at his wounds once, later in the movie, never comes up again, so no idea what this moment was supposed to convey, apart from them having no other idea of how to start this stupid movie. The intro title sequence is the only part of the movie that was well done. We then unfortunately jump to Shelly in the present time. Her friend found an incriminating video she wants to use against Vincent Rogue. She gets caught and Shelly is being followed. Her first instinct is to run into police officers standing close by and drop all her drugs right at their feet, instead of, walking up to them, saying she's in trouble, or being followed, or any other thing that doesn't get her arrested for possession. Jesus, what a dumbass. We then jump to Eric at the rehab center being a puss boy. Again, it's bright and the addicts all wear vivid pink uniforms. What the fuck is going on? We're then introduced to Vincent. We learn that he is super rich, has lived a very long life, and has some weird supernatural powers where he can corrupt people's minds. He makes Shelly's friend give herself a very sore throat. We're then back to the rehab center where Eric and Shelly meet and immediately are infatuated with each other. She's also a terrible comic.
What kind of tea is hard to drink?
I don't know.
Reality.
We then get to see another therapy session, because in this day and age I guess this is what people want to see.
Oh, that's nice.
We then learn that Shelly's mum, who is stupid rich by the way, led Vincent second in charge to the rehab center to apprehend Shelly. Eric and Shelly escape the rehab center, and the worst part of the movie is upon us. The movie decides to spend the next 20 minutes showing us this amazing love story between them. It's sex, booze and drugs shared by two assholes. It's an absolute slog to get through. It's painful watching, wondering why you're doing this to yourself, questioning decisions you've made in your life, and then finally trying to understand how this shit got greenlit by a big studio, thinking they had a hit on their hands, going for a summer release for this shit. Eric and Shelly go clubbing, and there she runs into an acquaintance who seems very agitated. They flee from the club and go to some weird mannequin factory place which is now their home. There they run into Vincent's bad guys. They pull bags over both their heads and suffocate them. Eric wakes up in, I guess we can call it purgatory. He meets Kronos. There's a few crows in the background. Kronos gives him the crow speech, which now makes absolutely no sense.
When someone dies, a crow carries their soul to the land of the dead, and the soul cannot rest. The crow will guide you to put the wrong things right.
What do you mean? Oh, fuck this. This isn't real.
And then without explaining anything, pushes Eric back into the world of the living. He goes back to the mannequin factory and runs into a corrupt cop working for Vincent. He manages to eventually kill the cop and realizes he can heal his wounds. He goes to a breach and jumps off into the water and wakes up back in purgatory. He finally starts to realize what happened to them.
She's dead, isn't she? We're both dead.
I'm afraid so.
Why am I here and she isn't?
She's on her way down to a place far worse than this.
Kronos then makes a deal with Eric. He tells Eric that Shelly is on the way down to hell and that Vincent made a deal with the devil to gain eternal life and shouldn't be alive anymore. If Eric can kill them all, he and Shelly gets their lives back. Kronos tells Eric that if his love remains pure, he cannot die, and doesn't mention how to kill the immortal guy. But anywho, back to the land of the living we go. Eric goes to visit Shelly's mom after her funeral, and we get to see some awful acting.
You don't understand who you're dealing with.
I loved her. I need to know who these people are. Because I'm gonna kill them. And I'm gonna bring her back.
My baby's gone. She's gone. And she's not coming back.
You're not listening to me. Just stop.
At Shelly's home, she finds some of her stuff, and amongst the things is a keycard for Rogue's company. He goes there, and without trying, walks right by the first guy who helped kill him and Shelly. Let's just say he ends up with some severe back pain.
I fucking killed you.
Who did? I want names.
As he gets out of the car, an SUV with the others literally run into him. This shit is just way too convenient. What happened to the crow guiding him? Jesus, what awful writing. Some fighting happens in the car and Eric gets ejected, gets trampled and ragdolls like a GTA character. Vincent then visits Shelly's mom and makes her pancake herself. Eric then goes back to the house he and Shelly initially went to and finds the phone with the incriminating video. It shows Shelly under Vincent's spell stabbing a person. This obviously corrupts Eric's love. Dun dun dun! Eric then goes to his tattoo bud and then learns that he betrayed him. They both get shot by random goons and Eric ends up back in purgatory again. Kronos tells him that he blew his chance.
Why did I stop healing?
I said your love needed to remain pure.
I never doubted her.
You had a chance, and you wasted it. You were given the power of a god.
Eric then makes another deal. His soul for hers, even though he doubted her like 3 seconds ago.
My soul for hers.
You will never be with her again.
Now let me do this.
Kronos is like, sure, whatever, let's go. And finally, after 75 minutes into the movie, Eric fucking finally steps up as the Crow. Holy delayed gratification, Batman. Eric comes back from his bath and kills the remaining henchmen there. He finds a text on the dead goon's phone that shows he needs to go to the opera house and then takes a moment to smoke a joint with his dead friend. So much for the Crow guiding him, I guess. We then get what is supposed to be his prep montage, set to Enya, because nothing says I'm a badass like Enya. He goes to the opera house and manages to find a katana blade somewhere. How? Why? The movie doesn't care, so I don't either. This leads us to the one and only action fight scene of this whole movie. While Vincent's goons are watching the opera in the theater with the most amazing soundproofing ever created, Eric slaughters some of the dumbest henchmen ever. He only has his katana, and they all have guns, and yet every single one of them decides that the best option is to get close enough to Eric to be killed by his sword. This is supposed to be a badass scene with the protagonist doing his thing, but it's so cringeworthy because of the constant stupidity. And after 100 gunshots right outside the opera theater, not a single person had heard anything but the opera. After slicing and dicing his way through all the dumbasses, Eric finally decapitates Vincent's 2 top goons, is a jerk to the opera performers, and pulls a Kathy Griffin on the opera goers. Just before Eric kills, checks IMDb because I can't remember her name. Oh right, Marion. She decides to justify her wicked ways.
It starts off so small. It's all kept from you. You know what's being done, but you're not part of it. And then you're swallowed up. And the only direction you can go is down.
Because we are now in the era where no one is truly evil anymore. It's always someone or someone else's fault. Fuck all the way off, movie. Eric decides to pay Vincent a visit and have a good chit-chat about life, death, and corrupt people.
I heard you think you can bring her back. You don't come back from that.
You corrupt people.
You can't corrupt what's not already there. A pearl. It's a seed.
Vincent tries to corrupt Eric and get his powers because the one thing the guy with immortality needs is the ability to self-heal. Is that not something he can already do if he cannot die? Why the fuck would he even need Eric's powers for? These writers are so goddamn stupid. Anywho, Eric fights the corruption, wakes from the trance, and knows that clinging to Vincent while throwing him through the big ass mirror will have them end up in purgatory again. And wow, it works! And then some random purgatory snake things snack on Vincent and drag his ass down to hell. Shelly is brought back from hell and wakes up from the paramedics shocking her back to life. So they went back in time? Vincent is down in hell now, but what about his goons? Aren't they still gonna come after Shelly again? Are they alive again? Do they exist in this new timeline? We have fucking timelines now? The ending is so goddamn stupid, I just want to throw things at the screen. Back in purgatory, Eric just walks away. The stupid fucking end. As you can see, this is just an objectively awful movie. It's disjointed, the writing is atrocious, things conveniently happen to Eric, and the acting sucks throughout. The cinematography wasn't great either. The VFX was mostly okay, apart from him ragdolling after getting run over. I've seen a lot of bad movies in my day, but very few of them had me raging when the final credits rolled. This is one of those rare movies that managed that. This isn't just the worst movie of 2024, it's the worst movie I've seen in many years. I'm trying to think of something worse, and there's just nothing. Luckily, this Abomination was an absolute disaster at the box office, so hopefully there won't be any sequels. If you take anything away from this review, it should be the following. Do not watch this shit. I watched this so you don't have to. You will not get this almost 2 hours of your life back, and it's not worth wasting on this movie. Anywho, that's me signing the hell off.